houseplant friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to tell you about how I take care of my orchids. This has been probably the most requested video on my channel to this point, and I haven't done it because I don't want to get yelled at, because I know I don't take care of orchids the right way. Most of the time, I let them go pretty darn long without a drink. I'm doing some things right, and I've heard that unless you've gotten an orchid to bloom, you're not allowed to give advice on getting them or taking care of them at all. What I've been told by other orchid people is that that is kind of like the old guard response to things. Just want to say, I am officially qualified to talk about orchid care. This is so exciting for me because I buy orchids because I like their foliage. However, this is an orchid I bought specifically for its flower. So what I'm gonna be doing today is giving you advice on how to take care of orchids. Before we get into today's video, please make sure you hit like and subscribe. Maybe you've been binge watching my videos and you just forgot to hit that subscribe button. Welcome to the community. I also have YouTube memberships, which you can check out at the link in the description. Let's jump in to orchid care and how I got this freaking orchid to bloom, and I think maybe a couple others as well. So this is Paphiapetalum Mystically Contrasting. I first discovered this orchid on eBay, and I didn't buy it because I'm responsible with my money. However, I could not stop thinking about this orchid. And here is its little pattern, and I usually don't like orchids like this because of the fact that they're glossious. So they're smooth. Usually I like Paphiapetalums that are like this. They actually have a texture on their leaf. They're not smooth and glossy. This is a matte orchid. That's not what they're called, but it's literally matte with kind of like a organza material that naturally occurs on it, which is bizarre, versus something that's glaucous or glossious. You can kind of see the difference there. This is usually something I go for, and this is Paphiapetalum, I think green apple. Oh, this is Malapoense, which is a hybrid between JY1 and green apple. One of my favorite orchids that I own, I feel like, for obvious reasons. And I did get this one to bloom, however, it was not because of me. I bought it already kind of blooming. This one I bought from Path Paradise, which I'll link in the description. I bought quite a couple orchids from them because I was like, Max, you know what? I'm just gonna buy some orchids tonight. And he was like, do it. So I did. This is one, I don't know why, but before when I had bought orchids, they all came in spike. And what they won't tell you about orchids is that orchids in spike cost a lot more than normal orchids. So this was like a freaking like $10 or $15 orchid, I believe. I'm not sure. And essentially, it came and it wasn't in spike. I got this a long time ago. I've had this orchid for quite a few months at this point, and I'm just waiting for the day I can get it to bloom. And as you know, I got my grow tent about a month and a half ago, so for the last month and a half, this guy has been getting tons of humidity, bright light, decent quality of life. As a lot of people will tell you, it's really hard to get orchids to bloom without bright light. Most of them, not all of them, but most of them. We freaking did it. This is in fact a little growth, a little flower bud. And the flower on this freaking dude is ridiculous. Here's a photo. Whoa, freaking phenomenal, wonderful. So I cannot wait to see this, but what I was told is that you're not allowed to talk about orchid care unless you've gotten some of them to bloom. So today's the day. Talk about some of these orchids I've gotten to grow and also bloom. Here's another one I think is putting out a flower spike. Why do I think that? Because it's giving me a new leaf right here, but it's putting out this. What is that? I think it's a flower spike. I actually don't even have the tag for this one. I think it's an Arangus something. I couldn't even tell you because I bought it at a place where they didn't sell tags of the orchids. But how exciting is that? I've got two guys in spike that I know of. I have a lot of orchids. I don't want to look through all of them because I have like 35 orchids. But yeah, I really think that that might be a flower spike and or a new aerial root growing out. So could also be that. Could also just be nothing. But we got a new little leaf there. So yeah, how do I take care of my orchids? Well, let me show you some of the types of orchids I have first. I have so many. I have Arangus, I have Psychopsis, I have Paphiapetalums, I have Phalaenopsis, Oncidium, different types of Cattleya species, and I also have some Chilosictas, which is a very rare type of orchid. Pulled out some of them to show you and kind of show you their new growth. What I believe helped it happen. So this is my Cattleya Marie's Love Taka hybrid. And this guy is amazing. He was $30 at one of my local orchid stores in Boise. Well, the only one. This guy is popping off. You can see there is tons of new growth. Anything that looks like this little trumpet right here, anything like that is new growth. There's tons of little ones all over the place, and new bulbs popped out as well. This is like a completely new dude right there. It's just, it's really, really exciting. And you can also see that the leaves themselves are actually getting bigger. You can see where the line was before. And I feel like they keep trying to bloom, and I feel like I keep killing their blooms somehow. So I don't quite know what's going on with that. But this one I keep in medium light conditions. I don't exactly know what the light is like in there when it's closed and I'm not in it because it reflects from everything. But this one I keep at the very bottom of my grow tent underneath the 2 trays of plants that I have above it. So there's 2 shelves above it blocking the light. He's right next to the humidifier, and he is seemingly very, very happy. My other Cattleya look like this. My Brassivola which is a type of Cattleya, is also doing very, very well. And actually the aerial roots on this guy are starting to grow outside of the pot, which they were not doing that before. That is how I take care of this one and my other Cattleya. They're all underneath my little thing. And actually, whenever you see the roots start to get like this kind of white color and they're not a green, I've heard that that is how you know when they need to be watered. Next, we have all of my little hanging guys. Some of my favorite orchids that I own, which is why I pulled them out to show them to you. I love them very much. This one is Psychopsis lemingii. It's a little tiny spotted shingling orchid. Can you freaking believe that? Absolutely wonderful, mounted, came with a tag. It's called Oncidium, but Psychopsis used to be classified as Oncidium. And I love it so much. It's got little spots, and it's actually grown tons of new little leaves. When I got it, it only came up to here. And after this leaf, everything is new, and it even put out a brand new shoot as well. So that's really exciting. Then I have this Cattleya. It's mounted. This is Cattleya Scarlet Imp. This one I've also gotten to put out quite a few new leaves. Those 2 tiny ones that you're seeing are brand new, as well as that leaf right there is brand new, and then that forefront leaf right there is also brand new. So this guy's doing really well. I water my mounted orchids probably once a month. I probably should water them more than that, which is why I haven't really been talking about orchids, because I feel like I'm doing it wrong. However, they're not dying. I've only killed one of my orchids. I actually did kill Pleurothallis paragensis, which is like my favorite orchid that I had, and it's because I didn't water it enough, and then it literally shriveled up and died. And I didn't see it because I was keeping it in a bad spot, and you guys can come for me, it's fine. That's the only orchid I've actually killed, which is so tragic and sad. I would have rather killed literally anything else. This Cattleya Scarlet Imp is doing really, really, really well. I watered about once a month. I think Cattleya can take less water. It actually looks like he could use some water right now. You'll see the roots look kind of white right there. Yeah, I found that my Cattleya don't seem to care if they get tap water or if they get distilled or filtered or whatever it is. That's better for your plants. I did have Lepanthes at some point, but they just were so delicate, I could not take care of them. But they're just kind of really difficult. Then I have these 2. Actually, these might be Modesta. Like, I think Orangus Modesta, and the other one is not an Orangus. But I got 2 of these little guys. I got them both from the same place that doesn't sell the tags with them. And got a new little leaf right there. I already showed you at the beginning. So these dudes, I literally keep hanging. I keep them hanging right by the humidifier, but the humidifier only gets turned on every like 2 or 3 days. And the humidifier is not an accurate way to water your orchids. You really do need to water them, especially if they're in like just free moss. That's pretty much how I take care of those types of orchids. But then we have my Paphiopediums, which are these dudes. This one and this one. These guys I don't keep in the shade. I keep them in the front of my shelves, still on the bottom level, but literally at the very front. So they're getting a ton of light, and then they're getting the light that's like refracted throughout the greenhouse. This is my Malapoense, which is one of my favorite orchids I own. And this is my mystically contrasting one I already showed you. Both of these get the same care. I water them probably every 2 weeks. Probably should water them maybe a little bit more than that. Or maybe I used to need to before I kept them in there. But all of my orchids, since putting them in this greenhouse, are literally doing amazing. So I don't know how I ever lived without this thing before. I also recommend the reflecting greenhouses way more than the clear ones. Even though the clear ones are fun and you can see your plants in it, these ones work so well, it's just stupid. It's actually still a little bit wet right now, so he won't need to be watered. And this one too is actually kind of damp. So these two, I give them bright light and lots of humidity, like a ton. Tons of water whenever they need to get watered. I feel like people don't do the ice cube thing. I should have said that at the beginning of this video. Don't do the ice cube thing. I hear of people taking ice cubes and putting them on their poor plants' roots. First of all, you're freezing their roots and you're gonna cause cold damage. No, whenever you have plants like this that are succulents and they need water, you need to water them very, very deeply so that they can soak up all that water and then hold it. Think of it like a camel. Camel doesn't lose all of its water and then take a sip of water because he needs to fill up his hump again. Same way with like your string of hearts or turtles or whatever. Like whenever those guys run out of water, you give them a lot of water. Another thing that's really important for orchids is not to get water in the crown. So the crown of the orchid is that little dude right there. And if you get water in there, it's kind of like bye-bye orchid. There are times that I have gotten water in the crown and the thing hasn't rotted. I've actually only ever lost one other orchid and it was because of crown rot. So because of that, these types of orchids are best with bottom watering. Those little hanging ones that I have, I actually water them by just chucking them in my sink and making sure that they're floating. Sometimes I'll turn them upside down to like really let it soak in, and I haven't had any issues with that so far. But I do know that a lot of people don't like to water their orchids like that because you risk crown rot. So you can do whatever you want, they're your plants. How I like to do it is I bottom water these guys, and I also drizzle some water in on the top of this moss every so often to make sure that the moss is getting watered and staying moist, because that's what's going to encourage root growth around the top of the orchids. Orchids, you can fertilize them by their leaves. They're one of the more unique plants that are like that. I don't think a lot of plants are like that, but I could be wrong. I'm just a houseplant hobbyist. I don't know anything. But yeah, so orchid fertilizer is you spray it on the leaves and the roots and it'll like absorb that, and then it'll fertilize your plant, which is pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty much everything I have to tell you about orchids. They're really, really cool. They're less expensive than almost every other plant on the market right now. Even begonias are getting a little bit more expensive this year because they're kind of getting more popular, but orchids are so underrated. I truly believe that they're the most underrated genus. I'm so dumb. They're not a genius. Orchids are actually familia, and I confuse myself with this all the time. They're one of the most underrated familia like ever. And if you haven't seen my houseplant history video on the origins of houseplant theft and stuff like that, there actually were orchid wars, and actual orchid what do they call them? People's only job was to go to the different countries that Britain or Europe or whoever was colonizing and steal their orchids and then bring them back. So yeah, orchids are a pretty big deal. They're not kind of a really big deal right now. So if you're looking to get into some more unique plants that also can bring some color to your home, I would definitely recommend orchids because they're pretty inexpensive. But I'll link some interesting little orchid websites where you can buy some orchids from in the link in the description as well. So make sure you check that stuff out. There's warm climate orchids and cold climate orchids. So depending on the type of orchid you have, you're gonna wanna, you know, try to simulate what it would want. Brooke knows so much about orchids, so does my friend Max. They're the ones who got me into it. They tried to get me into orchids for 2 years before I finally caved and went to Orchid Dynasty in Salt Lake City, which I cannot wait to go back to. I hope that this video was of some help to you at all. I don't exactly know what I'm doing with orchids. That's why I haven't really made a video about this. What I'm doing has worked enough that I've gotten orchids to bloom and put out new leaves. So hopefully, fingers crossed, I am doing something right. That's kind of this video. I'm trying to think of any other orchid tips. I don't fertilize my orchids with anything except for liquid dirt, so I do fertilize with liquid dirt. If you do want to try liquid dirt, the link is in the description, and just make sure you use the 25% off code. Use code PLANME_25. Helps me out a lot, helps you out a lot. I think that that's it for this video. I also know putting moss, sphagnum moss around the top of your soil in the pot will make it so that the aerial roots will grow better and maybe make your leaves grow faster. I also know that there are orchid pots. There are here's a photo of one. They're a completely different type of pot, and there's also specific orchid mixes. Different orchids do need different mixes. You want to learn more about orchids, go subscribe to Miss Orchid Girl, I think is her channel name. She'll be one of the first links in my description. Hope I gave good advice. I know what works for me. I also work in a very dry zone, like resting humidity here is like freaking 10%. That's the situation. Thanks for watching this video. Please make sure you hit like, subscribe, and tweet me at PlantMeAshley. Follow me on Instagram at PlantMeAshley as well. There's 24,000 of you guys there, which is awesome. But that means 1,000 of you here aren't following me on Instagram. So go check that out. Go subscribe to me over there. Please join the channel membership. It's a super fun time. If you're having a hard time making plant friends in the community, come on over. We got like 140 or 50 channel members. It's amazing. We do weekly events with the Discord. We just did one yesterday. Hit that join link. It's only $5 a month for the base entry fee. And honestly, that's the only level you really need to join at to support me really well. Come hang out, come vibe, and thank you so much to my Real Ones 2.0 and up, especially to the Planted Cauliflower, All the Green Places, and Botanicas for your extra channel support. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next houseplant section or my plant room. Goodbye.